Alright mates, how's it going? In today's video, Chapter 5 of Arthas, Rise of the Lich King. This chapter's a little bit shorter than the others. Arthas finally gets inducted into the Order of the Silver Hand. So let's go! The day had come. A day that His Royal Highness Prince Arthas Menethil had been looking forward to his entire life, basically. And yet he was still a little bit reluctant. Firstly, he wasn't in the best of moods. The sun was beaming down on him, in full plate armour, so he was sweating his balls off. But also, riding this new horse through the streets of a rebuilt Stormwind only served to remind Arthas of what had happened to Invincible a few months earlier. God, he missed that horse. This has been a day long in coming, my son. Yep, it sure has. This was one of the biggest celebrations the city of Stormwind had ever seen. In addition to Terranus, many other kings, nobility and famous peeps were in attendance, and they were all riding through the streets like a parade towards the Cathedral of Light. Arthas' childhood friend, Varian Rin, was there too, now king of Stormwind, and he'd got himself married and had a kid. But Arthas and Varian had still managed to find the time to spend the previous night drinking mead and talking through to the early hours.
Hey, we should go to Goldshire Inn. It's filth. It's crazy.
It was one of the best nights Arthas had ever had, but also meant he was now nursing a bit of a hangover. But the main reason Arthas was feeling reluctant to take part in the approaching ceremony was because he didn't really believe that he deserved the honour that was about to be bestowed upon him, and he'd mentioned his concerns to Uther, and was a little bit shocked by the older paladin's response. Lad, no one feels ready. No one feels like they deserve it. And you know why? Because no one does. We're humans. And all humans, and elves, and dwarves, and all other races are flawed. But the light loves us anyway. So stand there, as I did, feeling like you can't possibly deserve it or ever be worthy, and know that you're in the same place every single paladin has ever stood. The parade then finally reached the cathedral, so Arthas dismounted and gave the cheering crowd another smile and wave. The cathedral itself radiated a sort of serenity and power that impressed the prince. He slowly made his way up the carpeted stairs and was then extremely grateful for the sudden coolness of the building's stone interior, and the sudden silence as the doors closed behind him, blocking out the cheers and rabble from the streets outside. As he looked around the rows of peeps sat there waiting for the ceremony to begin, he saw a number of familiar faces. Gen Greymane of Gilneas, Thoris Trollbane of Stromgard, Admiral Dalin Proudmoore of Kul Tiras, and next to the Admiral, his daughter. Yes! Jaina's here. She'd certainly blossomed in the years since he'd last seen her. Jaina then caught the prince staring at her and smiled in return, which was nice. Arthas then returned his attention to the altar he was walking towards. He couldn't really procrastinate any longer, to be honest. Archbishop Alonzus Fowl was looking right at him, like, come on mate, haven't got all day. In the light, we gather to empower our brother. In its grace, he shall be made anew. In its power, he shall educate the masses. In its strength, he shall combat the shadow. And in its wisdom, he shall lead his brethren to the eternal rewards of paradise. The Archbishop then asked the clerics to bestow their blessings upon Arthas, so they did, and after that, Knights of the Silver Hand. If you deem this man worthy, place your blessings upon him. So they did as well. The original Paladin Knights: Uther, who looked like he was about to cry, Tyrion Fordring, Saidan Dathrahan, and Gavinrad. There was one missing from their numbers though, Turallion. He'd been lost with the rest of the company that ventured through the Dark Portal when Arthas was 12, and most people felt like he was probably dead or something. The Archbishop then smiled at the prince. Arise and be recognised. Do you, Arthas Menethil, vow to uphold the honour and codes of the Order of the Silver Hand? I do. Do you vow to walk in the grace of the light and spread its wisdom to your fellow man? I do. Do you vow to vanquish evil wherever it be found and protect the innocent with your very life? By my blood and honour, I do. Fowl then turned to address the clerics and the paladins. Brothers and sisters, you who have gathered here to bear witness, raise your hands and let the light illuminate this man. Both groups raised their hands, which all seemed to be glowing with a golden hue, and pointed at Arthas, and he stood there, waiting for the glorious glow to envelop him. But nothing happened, and it was really awkward. Arthas began to sweat again as he waited for what felt like an eternity for the light to embrace him, wondering what the bloody hell was going wrong. Until finally, the sunlight itself streamed through the windows and the ceiling and highlighted the prince, and it was almost blinding. Plus it burned slightly, felt like he was being scoured, scrubbed clean. It wasn't pleasant. Arise, Arthas Menethil, Paladin Defender of Lordaeron. Welcome to the Order of the Silver Hand. Arthas grinned as the folks in the rows of pews behind him erupted in applause and cheers. All remnants of formality quickly disappeared as his father, Varian and others crowded the altar area like, "Way, Arthas, way!" And as Arthas turned around, he found his face inches away from Lady Jaina Proudmoore's face. And the prince wasn't going to let this moment go to waste, so he reached out, pulled her towards him and gave her a giant hug. She seemed startled at first, but then returned to the hug, which was nice. Maybe he should kiss her. Should he kiss her? He wanted to kiss her. But what if he was misreading the situation? What if she rejected him? What a predicament! Arthas became so distracted by that little debate with himself, he didn't even notice Jaina walk off and be replaced by his sister Kalia. Why are you looking at me like you're going to kiss me? Anyway, just wanted to say we're all proud of you, you dork. You're going to make a wonderful paladin. I'm sure of it. And then King Tyrannus piped up. Well done, my son. I'm a proud father today. Today? What did he mean by that? Was he not a proud father any other day? What a douche. Arthas suddenly felt quite angry, and he wasn't entirely certain why. Perhaps it was a combination of things. The light delaying its approval and kind of embarrassing him in front of all of his friends. Him missing his chance to kiss Jaina. Tyrannus and his weird passive-aggressive comment. It was all getting a bit too much. He'd had enough of this shit. He was 19, an age where he could do what he wanted. Especially now, with the blessing of the Silver Hand to guide him. So, Arthas forced a smile and started to shoulder his way through the crowds. It was time for something fun. He wasn't going to go on any more boring state visits or just linger at the palace. And he knew exactly what he wanted that something to be. And we're leaving it there! So that's the end of part 1 of the book. In part 2, there's a bit of a love triangle, and then the Third War starts, which means that a plague will be a prominent part of the story, and in hindsight, that might not have been the best idea. As usual, link in the description if you're interested in buying this book. Also, there's links to my Discord server and my Patreon page too. If you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, all of that bollocks. And all that's left to say is, thanks for watching, and see ya!